I go back to Alabama like 3 weeks later. And I want to share this story with Saban and kind of bring it full circle to see what his opinion is. And as I'm starting to introduce the story, I said, hey, you don't know this, but we were here Labor Day weekend, and I left here and I went straight to Yankee Stadium. And I walk into Aaron Boone's office, and he interrupts me and he goes, you told him I'm a Yankees fan, right? I was like, yeah. I told Aaron Boone that Nick Saban is a Yankees fan. Like they're kids like us in many ways, right? Like Nick Saban to the Yankees is what Alabama is to any young Alabama fan. Like he has that.
Jameel Muhammad and Jeff Cardozo dive into the hobby, which is sports cards, trading cards, as well as all other collectibles, right now on the Meelypod Hobby Podcast, live from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill.
Hey everybody, it is the Meelypod Hobby Podcast time. Original cast of characters, Jeff Cardozo, Jameel Muhammad, and we, of course, are at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Gainesville, Celebration Point, inside the podcast room where these Gator helmets all of a sudden are looking good.
Looking real good.
A couple of wins for them, and we may even have something later on where you can get a DJ Lagway card. And gosh, I saw a tweet earlier today that said this guy's going to win the Heisman in a year or two. So
there you go.
Invest now,
yeah,
and be a part of the bandwagon.
He's grown, and we'll be talking about it in our third segment today. The new wax coming out. He's the Chase in the new Bowman Chrome University, and then on top of that, I was on YouTube last night and I saw this big YouTuber called Bordeaux saying, "I'm going to take over the Gators franchise and make them," because he started this when we were like really bad. And so it's funny because I watched his video, which was maybe like, I don't know, it's an hour-long video, but I just kept going ahead. And he made DJ Lagway the Heisman finalist. And
really?
It was just really funny. Okay. And then at the very end, he said, man, I'm so sad he beat Oregon to win the national championship after his third year. And he said, I'm sad that I cannot play with this offense anymore because he did this challenge. So, yeah, DJ Lagway, he's arrived.
Yes, he has become a big deal. And that wasn't the only sort of upset over the week in college football. You, of course, Alabama going down again, which is just absolutely nuts. I saw something, too, where Saban was a double-digit underdog or favorite like 193 times in his Alabama career and lost twice.
Wow.
And in 8 games now, Kalen DeBoer has lost twice.
Yeah.
So the difference of what that has become, so that's certainly changed the landscape. But, all of that, we're going to talk to Tom Hart of ESPN. He is our guest today, SEC Network. He does football, baseball, basketball, so he's got a slew of things and a lot of fun stuff memorabilia-wise that he has collected over the years. And, it'll be some good stuff.
Segment 2. Don't leave.
Yes, do not leave. And I know you have some good stuff coming up. I've seen the videos starting to post at the shop of Black Friday, which is nuts to think it is right around the corner.
Yeah.
So be ready for that. But gosh, I'm ready to hear all these deals because it seems like this is a place to go on Friday.
Yeah, well, happy Thanksgiving, everybody, first off. But tomorrow is going to be a nutty day as it's Black Friday. It is going to be nuts in the shop. When we first started, the shop in 2018, Jeff, I didn't really understand Black Friday. I'd always gone to them in the past and seen the lines,
sure,
and people punching each other at Walmart and those kinds of things. But for me, it was I've learned that it's actually become more of a community opportunity. It's become an opportunity to let people say, hey, look, let's give back. Even if we lose a little bit on certain products, to just give people deals on it. Everyone always focuses on how much that you can make as a store. That's true, but at the same time, how much savings and value can you actually pass on to the customer? And they're really the people that make our shop run. So that's how I've always looked at Black Friday. We have a lot of fun with it. This year is unique. We're giving $1,000 away in our shop. If you come in, you spend so much, you get raffle tickets, you can win $1,000. We're trying to up the ante with that. We have free Pokemon packs. We have Black Friday Panini packs, which is going to be really cool. And then I just recently brought in a big memorabilia collection, a big Pokemon collection. So all that stuff I've been saving, big singles collection from the Jacksonville Card Show. So a lot of that stuff I've been kind of saving until Black Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so we can just kind of have it all for people to go crazy with.
Awesome, man. That's what it's all about. I also remember a few years ago, my teenage daughter, she had sent me something about this advent calendar for beauty products.
Oh, boy.
I thinking I'm all cool, I'm going to be a good dad. I remembered this, and I go online and it's sold out. I'm like, dang it. So it was like I look for advent calendars, and I buy a different one, but it wasn't the brand that she wanted. So it was like,
you got the half smile.
One of those like, oh, thanks, Dad. But, it's facial stuff that I have no idea about or anything. I mean, this is all natural beauty.
Yeah, I mean, it's all beauty.
That's what we have to deal with on a daily basis. But
baby-like skin.
Apparently there's some advent calendars now in the shop. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so this is a new thing for Topps and Panini. Panini and Topps had this plan for a while. Well, they came out with a advent calendar. Both kind of the top side is a true advent calendar. It's kind of set up with the 25 days for December, and in each side there's a pack. And so they've put in, I think it's 24, so many packs. You get so many numbered cards, but also there's like a bonus old pack. So there's people thinking that you can get 2018 Topps in there. I've heard 1989 Topps. I've heard 2020 Bowman. So these older packs that you can get, it's kind of like a nice little Christmas surprise. And so we got it. We posted a video on our TikTok. Maybe we can link it or post it in the comment section. But it went to like 90,000 views in 24 hours. And I guess people really love this. And so I'm glad Topps did it. They'll do it for the future of the hobby. And then Panini said, well, we're going to one-up you, and we're going to have a Kaboom advent calendar. Ooh. So Kabooms, as you guys know, are one of the quintessential chases in the Panini product run. And so the first Jaden Daniels Kaboom, the first Caleb Williams Kaboom will be available through these kind of Kaboom countdown calendars is what they're calling them. And so those are another world of just kind of chaos and holiday just spectacle and chasing these cards. So I always think, too, like, if a real hobby person gets one of these advent calendars, specifically the Topps one, they're not opening those one a day. They're going to open that all in like 7 seconds. Can't wait. Right? You know what I mean? They're just going to open it all and rip. So I don't know if it's like a really cool packaging. It's this giant box, but I was like, man, do they not know their clientele? Like, they should just all put it in one giant door. So cool thing with the advent calendars. We'll see what that does. I mean, I don't know. There could be some cool finds that people get around Christmas.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. Hard to wait, but maybe those that have waited, since you mentioned Caleb Williams, they're can start to recoup some of this investment, because the Bears fire their offensive coordinator a few weeks ago. Now all of a sudden, new guy comes in. They've been really good again. Receivers are fantasy relevant. So, I think that's always fascinating. But then you look at another guy you mentioned, Jaden Daniels. Washington starts 7-2. Now they lose to the Cowboys. Although he has this, great epic play at the end of the game, they miss the extra point. So how are those young quarterbacks doing? And maybe even another guy, I think, randomly, Denver is actually having a really nice year. So Bo Nix owners could be happy this Christmas.
I mean, look at the comparison between 24 and 23. You have AR, Levis, Bryce Young, and Stroud talking about how incredible this is going to be, this rookie class. And now all of them have kind of faltered. Stroud looking a little bit more, beatable in a lot of ways and having some flaws. And then you have all these guys now. Caleb Williams making a pass this week that looked like he was Joe Namath or something. And it was amazing to kind of see. And so with those three guys specifically, I think you have a good run of quarterbacks moving into the next season. I think you have a lot of people prospecting on them. And then Bo Nix, a guy that, that team could be in the playoffs. I think Washington will make it too. Not sure about Chicago, but to have Bo Nix in the playoffs would be very interesting to see a rookie quarterback at that level. The card market for football is very, very kind of, I would say, stagnant, right? Because they all hit kind of these highs. They've come down a little bit week to week, but you're seeing, I think, people starting to look now to the playoffs. So if you're watching football, you think, 5-6 more weeks, the season's over. Do I really want to hold cards of these players that aren't going to be in the playoffs and have a chance to, potentially make a bigger name for themselves? So be thinking about that. It's also a great time to sell because everyone's buying football cards right now on eBay and those places. So think through that, strategically, either going to sell now versus holding later.
And then what about baseball? Because now it's not happening. And, we had Brady Singer on about a month ago. He's traded.
It's crazy.
Crazy. He gets traded for one of his college teammates and Jonathan India, and things like that happen. So I know that's not much value on the cards there, but is it a good time during off seasons, whatever sport it might be, to then now say, okay, people are forgetting about these cards. It might be a good time to kind of go out and try to find some.
Yeah, I think you start to see that with baseball always from December to, I'd say November to January. You start to see that kind of drop off in baseball. I had a person just offer an Ohtani autograph, and it was interesting to see kind of how low they really were. You know what I mean? And it was a rookie year autograph. Wow. So just thinking through that a little bit, it's just the card market has really become seasonal. It's become hype driven more than anything. Sure, the performance is important. Sure, winning is important. But when you have someone like Jameis Winston, who doesn't really have a future, but because he wins one game and he's funny and likable, his cards go through the roof for the past 2 weeks, right? You have to kind of look at that and think about what the ebbs and flow of the card market. So be careful in that. Baseball's a great buy right now. I think sneakily, basketball is a good buy right now.
Okay.
A lot of cards are pretty low. I was looking at some of the big names. I always like to project like who do I think is going to be in the finals, or at least in the final four for the NBA, and then think about buying those cards now because it's the best time to purchase that.
Well,
stuff.
and you got LeBron saying, "Hey, all these teams missed on Dalton Connect," so I would think that just by a few words like that would increase the value of his cards.
Yeah, Dalton Connect's been amazing, and I think that I saw I think it was just a behind the scenes him asking Coach JJ to show him his pregame shoot around, teach him everything he did pregame. So you got young guys who are hungry in the league, and Connect's been playing well. Another SEC guy. So
yeah, that he is. All right, well, this guy's not young. He's not even on this planet anymore, but I guess there was some Babe Ruth news.
Yeah, Babe
this
Ruth.
past week.
33 Gaudy sold for I think it was 1.62 million, PSA 8.5. And I think it's notable to say, like, to talk about these things because it becomes very norm, like, oh, there's a big card, it sold for a lot. Guys, we have lots and lots and lots of high-end cards that are selling for lots of money.
Mm-hmm.
And that is showing, I think, a good place for the hobby. Now, again, that's a 33 Gaudy PSA 8.5, but there's still cards that are modern cards. We talk about the Skeens card still hasn't been pulled. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People are going nuts over that. I've had so many customers and people just asking me, how do I get more update chrome? How do I pull it? Blah, blah, blah. So there's a fanaticism to modern, to vintage that I think is just continuing to grow. So the hobby's in a good place. I think so. And from the secondary market, I'm excited to see the next steps and where we're going to be next 5-10 years.
How crazy is that to think? So 33, that would be just over 90 years old.
Yeah.
That it can still get an 8.5. So whoever had that preserved it pretty good over the years.
Some of these finds, Jeff, like, with these tobacco cards and like people will go in the attics and stuff. There's the big story recently was the candy maker who they found all the tobacco cards and the candy cards or whatever in his attic. It was his great uncle. But the thing is, they put these cards to the side. They got them out of the packages. They sold the candy. They sold the cigarettes, and they just kind of stored them away.
Yeah.
So I think these are cards that can be preserved, and it's wild to think that you can get these cards graded at that high a level, but they are.
Yeah.
Surfacing.
That they are. All right. Well, a lot of good stuff going on. Again, Jameel told you about Black Friday, and I know you have to always be swindling, getting stuff on the phone and working the phone. So Jameel's going to step aside. We'll get Tom Hart in here, knock out an interview with him, but make sure you stay tuned. It's going to be some good stuff with the ESPN SEC Network broadcaster when we come back on the Meelypod Hobby Podcast.
Albert, Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
This is Jameel, owner of the Meelypop shop, Gainesville's home for collectibles of all sorts, including every single type of sports cards, whether it be Panini, Topps, Leaf, Upper Deck. We have it. Come on in, get yourself a box, a pack, get yourself some supplies, get into our breaks, get your Pokemon, get your Yu-Gi-Oh! All the other different kinds of TCG products that we carry and shop are always fully in stock. You can find our stuff on our website as well, meelypops.com. That's another way you can interact with the store, or you can just come into the shop. We're located off 39th Avenue by I-75 behind Walgreens and Sonny's. Stop on by. We're open every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you can check us out on our social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, whatnot, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We'd love to see you. Come on out to the shop, have some fun, be a part of the card community here in Gainesville, and always go Gators.
All right, we welcome you back to the Meelypod Hobby Podcast, hanging out in Spurrier's Gridiron Grill inside the podcast room. Our guest today, a guy that you see all over the place, ESPN, SEC Network, probably some internet sites that are restricted. That's the type of guy that Tom Hart is, and absolutely love hanging out with this guy. So it's going to be a fun little interview. Tommy, what's up, man?
I'm big on the dark web. I'm really big on I'm glad you brought that up. People know If you know, you know. So
Yeah.
then you already know where to find me.
Yeah. Well, we do know it's been certainly a crazy SEC football season. Obviously you cover all three of these, but kind of nuts just to think about even what happened last week with Ole Miss going down, Bama going down, and A&M going down. Like, it's nuts. Like, where do you put all this, and how are we going to figure this thing out?
Well, I think in the end, what we've learned is it'll figure itself out to some certain extent, right? I mean, I don't know if there's going to be a lack of controversy. Obviously, people are going to be fired up if you're, number 11 or 12 versus number 13 or 14. And there's still a lot of education that has to take place with fans, understanding that you could be number 12 in the country but be left out because there's an automatic bid that comes in behind you and grabs that number 12 seat. So that's all minutia. But Jeff, what I think is fascinating is the most exciting college football season I remember is 2007. And the way that thing played out, rivalry games at the end of the season where teams that were locked into a chance, or I guess you can't use that term locked in, but had the inside track to play for a championship, were upset at the end of the year. West Virginia lost to Pitt in the backyard brawl. Missouri lost in the Big 12 title game to Oklahoma. All this chaos occurred. Those are just two examples I can think of off the top of my head. And LSU backdoors its way in and ends up winning a national title. And I think the takeaway for me is twofold. Number one, so many more teams and therefore fan bases involved later in the season that the interest level is through the roof. And I think that's fantastic. And as of now, we don't know who the final four teams left are, who the two they're going to play for a title, but it certainly seems like access, because of parity and roster movement, access is there for a program like Indiana, which would never sniff the playoff in any other year, certainly the 4-team playoff. And it would have to be a miracle for them to, be awarded a national championship in the old voting days. So I think that's really good for the sport of college football.
Yeah, certainly is. All right, so I want people to learn about you and know about you. Let's go all the way back to the, not the high school Missouri days, but like once that got done, you started doing minor league baseball and riding buses for hours upon hours. And like, was there ever a point where you said, "Man, this sucks, I want to quit," or was it kind of like that opportunity to say, "Hey, this is going to be fun. I'm going to grow. I'm going to learn. I'm going to figure some of this stuff out"?
I think at the beginning of that, riding the buses with guys who were trying to get to the big leagues, and that was my same goal as a broadcaster. It was that promise of kind of the unknown. And if you work hard enough, that you can accomplish these things, whether it's a stair step and move up little by little, or get that, Willy Wonka golden ticket and just jump to the front of the line, whatever that would look like. So, yeah, there were frustrating times when you're riding on a bus all night and you have no weekends off and you have no money to spend, even if you did have a weekend off, because you're working for pennies, because the industry is so cutthroat that they can do that to you. But in the end, there has to be, whether you're an athlete that's trying to reach that, or a broadcaster, or whatever your industry is, you have to have this self-confidence that, hey, this is worth my time because I'm talented enough to reach a point that'll make all of this worth it. And I think that's maybe the hardest part is finding out that truth. Like, okay, who can shoot me straight in such a subjective industry as broadcasting is? Who can give me feedback that I need and say, hey, listen, there's a light at the end of the tunnel for you, or maybe now you go sell copiers, who knows? But you have to have your own internal drive, I think, which makes anyone successful, whether you're running a hobby business or own your own HVAC company, or, you're a high priced lawyer, like whatever it is, orthopedic surgeon. You have to have some sort of drive to accomplish the goals that you want. But you also have people that are honest with you that say, hey, listen, your talent level will allow you to reach X level. So if you want to keep grinding, it's worth your time to do so. And I'm glad I listened to those people.
Yeah, no doubt. Since this is a memorabilia in the hobby world and cards and stuff like that, the minor league hats are really cool, and the logos and the different things. So I don't know if you have anything in that great man cave back there, but from the early years, you got anything pretty sweet back there? Yeah.
From the early years, let's see what I got hanging around here. It was funny when COVID hit, like silver lining. It was like, hey, you have to build something behind being on camera, and so you have to break out memorabilia and get new memorabilia. But this was the first minor league team I worked for.
Look at
the
you.
Winston-Salem Warthogs. In end of season clearance sale, it was more like these BP jerseys were going out, so all of us employees we all went in and picked one. That was our clearance sale. So yeah, that was my first job out of high school. And then the people with the Tennessee Smokies were kind enough to send me one during COVID. They're now a Cubs affiliate, but this was really all jobs I have special memories of, and all stops I have special memories of. But the Smokies one was really fun because our first couple of years we were with the Blue Jays, and they were a really good team and great people. And then the Cardinals came in, and I grew up in Missouri, and I grew up kind of a split Royals Cardinals fan. And the first battery that we had, they said, hey, you're going to get this young catcher and you're going to get this kind of journeyman pitcher that are going to be on your roster. And I remember our first road trip was over the Smokies, and we went from Knoxville to Zebulon, North Carolina, and there was snow in the Smokies that trip. And our 17-year-old catcher from Puerto Rico had never seen snow before. And here is a future Hall of Famer, Yadier Molina, pressed up against the window, looking out to see snow for the first time, and then would be catching curveballs and 98-mile-an-hour fastballs from Rick Ankiel. So, I think to be around guys like that was really that also helps the drive. Like, I was incredibly interested in following where Yadier Molina was going to end up, and is this kid really as good as I see each and every day? So, yeah, those are a couple of random pieces. And then I've also tried to collect bats from my different stops, right? And I think it's cool to have a wooden bat around. And this is a buddy of mine. There's a buddy of mine that was on the team that gave me some of his stuff, Matt Berger, who played at college ball at Louisville. And when it comes to the memorabilia stuff, I mean, I could have gotten this autograph by a bunch of cool people, and I think I've got a Smoltz autograph around here somewhere. It probably shouldn't just be in a bin. It should probably be better protected than just in a aluminum trash can. But to me, it's about experiences, right? Yeah. I mean, it's if you're a collector, to me, it's collecting memories first. And maybe that's an interaction you had when you're getting that autograph. Or maybe it's just something that reminds you of that time. And I think that's really cool. Whether you're a sports fan or not, I mean, you could be a hobbyist that collects Hollywood memorabilia. You get a chance to meet a famous actor and have that interaction. That to me is what drives all of the interest.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, I think, we get to do all these cool things, go to cool places, but it's that memory. It's not necessarily getting that autograph, but it's just that something of, it's grabbing dirt from Omaha when you win a national title and things like that. That's a throwback, Rick Ankiel. So I actually went to rival high school with Rick, and I doubled off of him in high school.
Yes.
So, how about that? Dominated.
Yeah, you did.
He was so good back in the day.
First of all, just an awesome human being. And when he was in the minors, when I was calling the games on radio, this was after his major league meltdown in the playoffs, where Tony La Russa named him surprise starter. He threw, I think, 4 to the backstop. And he was trying to work his way back up from this rookie phenom season. So he was a little bit more mature than the rest of the guys. He had tasted it, and he knew kind of what the grind was. And so then to follow him, then to turn into a position player was awesome. But I'll never forget, talk about experiences. I used to go down every day during batting practice. I'd have to be at the ballpark early. I didn't have that much, work to do. So I would go down and watch bullpen sessions when starters would throw. And I would watch just about every one of Hank's bullpen sessions. And he would dot wherever he wanted this ball to go. And he would have the catcher set up. All right, inside black, I'm going 5 fastballs. Womp, womp, womp. Dot it. All right, I'm going change up away. Whap, whap, dot it. And it was almost like you could feel this. Okay, this guy's a perfectionist. And the pitching coach would say, all right, you're at 20. You good? No, man, let me throw 5 more. And those last 5, Jeff, those are the ones that started getting away.
Yeah.
And I talked to him about it one time, and I was like, my comp to you, Rick, is it's like sitting at the blackjack table, and you're winning, and you say, I got to stay for one more. I got to stay for one more. I said, if you get out of your bullpen session after 20, you feel amazing. You didn't miss a single pitch. Instead, you try to stay for 5 more, and then that doubt creeps in your mind. By the way, he throws or would throw his curveball so hard. He was a lefty, but he would throw it so hard that you would hear his finger snap as it came off the ball. So every time he'd whack, whack. That's how much spin and torque he generated, and it was loud too. He had big hands. You could hear that snap. But it was like that was a fascinating career for me to follow up close.
Sure. Yeah, and I guess going back to that, I actually beat him that day 2-1. And
yeah, you did. Going back to it. I just forgot about the time I beat Rick Ankiel.
Well, and I mean, I was this little 6'4", 150-pound skinny nothing that didn't throw hard, but Florida was there that day, and that's kind of how I got noticed. So going against him. So yeah, it's kind of crazy that going back to that. And actually that day was against the Braves, where everything went awry in the playoffs. So I want to take you back to your Braves days, and it was kind of the tail end of Chipper when you were sort of coming along. Did you see that tweet that the Chipper sent to Danny Cannell the other day?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Incredible stuff. And I think every Gator fan hates Danny Cannell because he just crushes the SEC. And for those that don't, I pulled it up here and says, and Danny Cannell says, "Congrats, Florida. You are the Kansas Jayhawks of the SEC." And then Chipper tweets back, "Hey, Danny, I say this with all due respect for your mediocre career and even less mediocre career after throwing senseless picks at FSU. STFU, we all know what that means. We know you hate the SEC. We get it. No need to pee in our cornflakes because you're on your period. Congrats on Charleston Southern." I mean, Chipper's like the greatest guy in the world now, right? After saying that?
Listen, give Danny credit. That guy knows what he's doing. Like, he is creating content, and he just got a Hall of Famer to elevate his own platform. Like, that's a win. Yeah, he got beat down, and Chipper got him at the knees, but he also got elevated, right?
Sure.
I mean, you're getting attention. He's doing what he wants to do. Chipper's fantastic. I had a blast being around him every day. In fact, who knew that Chipper would kind of make such a impact on Twitter? I remember Twitter was relatively new in terms of like how people could gain traction with it. And I was going into the clubhouse one day, and something had happened. I don't even remember what the news of the day was, but I tagged Chipper in a tweet. And I was going into the clubhouse at a time of day where everybody else was out taking BP, and he was a little banged up. And so he wasn't out with the team. He was just in the back signing balls. I just happened to like I have a basket of, you probably have like buckets and buckets. I just have a random basket. And he's in there signing balls, and I walk in, and without even looking up, he says in his drawl, "Did you tweet me?" And it reminded me of the Ted Williams, the line about Ted Williams, "Gods don't answer letters." Well, Chipper Jones is on Twitter. Like, not only does he answer it, but he wants to attack you for coming after his conference, which is fantastic. I don't want to lose this opportunity, by the way. I did, and this was just stuff that was behind me. I wanted to find stuff that I had from a memorabilia standpoint that maybe meant something to you. So you're like, this is great. Wow. I got my 11, my Mike Martin bobblehead, which I think is fantastic, just to bring full circle with Florida State. And here's somebody, if you haven't met, had the experience, I think you would really appreciate as a Gator. If you come up with an autograph Maniac picture, then you're living life right. I mean, look, it's even personalized.
Yeah,
that's Tom, how about
awesome,
them Canes?
How about some Canes?
Is that something you would want? Would you want me to frame this for you? Do you think you have room for Miami or Florida State gear in your man cave?
Doubtful, but I actually do. So I was born in Miami, and you had to go, and I moved up to where I grew up a couple hours north of that in second grade. But my dad decided to find a picture of me with the Maniac at like a pool party when I'm 5 years old, and I'm shirtless and hanging out at the pool by the Maniac, and I used it to throw darts at. Once I got into the college world of not liking the Hurricanes, but that's awesome.
Shredded. So you have Cardozo.
You have Florida and Florida State, or Florida State and Miami. You got to have some Gator stuff, right? If not, we're gonna make that happen.
Well, I don't. This is all I got. I got one of
Oh,
these.
look at
I
you.
got a hat back there. Yeah,
Okay.
I got a little bit of stuff. It's a smorgasbord, right? Like, I mean, I've got stuff from all over the place. Um, that's why, by the way, like doing games from home was fantastic. Like my buddy works for the Fond du Lac Dock Spiders, and he said, "I need a Dock Spiders hat
Oh,
in the
wow.
background of your games." I was like, "Yeah, hit me up. I'm down with Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, and a Dock Spider." Right? You know what a Dock Spider is? Like everybody goes out in the morning, and you've got the webs across the dock, and next thing you know, you walk right into it, and there's a spider on your face. Like nobody likes a dock spider; those are the worst.
No, they're certainly the worst. But what's not the worst is, I think what's always fascinating, what people would probably love to hear. You get to sit in all these production meetings, and it's football coaches, basketball coaches, baseball coaches. Which ones are the ones you could screw around with the most? Like when you're in there with the analyst, or what sport is the most fun out of those three?
It really depends. It's not so much the personality of the coach; it's the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think all of these guys have a certain stress level, right? And if you're at that level, but how was their week? Are they coming off of a loss? Are they coming off of a win? Is their job in jeopardy? So you kind of have to read the room in terms of who you're able to have fun with. Um, Saban was surprisingly fun because it was relative to the rest of the meeting. I mean, he could come in. I remember I asked what I thought was a dumb question, and he's just drinking his coffee out of the styrofoam cup, and he's just staring at me over the brim because I asked him a question he didn't like, and I was like, "Oh my God, I may not make it out of here alive." But then we went in there another time, and he was in a great mood, and this was, I think, 2 years ago, and it was a week after a freshman defensive back had made the comment. Someone asked him how it was, what was like playing for Coach Saban and how serious he is. He's like, "Oh no, he's not that serious. He loves these nuts jokes." And they all blew. They couldn't believe. Like nobody could believe that was the case.
Yeah.
So we're leaving our meeting, and I said, "Hey, Coach, before you leave, I just want to let you know that I have a 12-year-old son. He doesn't watch college football at all, and it means very little to him. But you are now his favorite coach because of these nuts." And I felt like that was the perfect way to end the meeting.
Great.
Like
Yeah.
because he loved it. He loved it.
Well, but I mean, how cool is that though? Just to sit in there and watch him like draw up plays, or Kiffin, or just any of these great offensive minds, or coaches that win all these things. Like, what is that like? Just sitting there seeing that happen.
It's amazing, and we've gotten like those are my favorite memories. That once again, it goes back to what we were talking about before, the interactions. Like, when did it have depth? When did it mean something? You get Nick Saban to sit in a production meeting, and the greatest of all time, and he just answers questions. That's one thing, but when you get him to be invested in the conversation to the point where he gets up on the dry erase board and starts drawing up plays and talking coaching philosophy, that's different. So I won't ever forget those production meetings. Mike Krzyzewski was the same way. The deal with Coach K was you weren't necessarily welcome to come watch their practice. So that was a bummer. But before a 7 o'clock game, you'd be escorted into his office at 5:30. And this was his side office. It was in Cameron Indoor. And here he is, shirt on tuck, trying to get his cufflinks in, tie around his neck. And you had his undivided attention. And he would answer every single question that you had. And he had a unique way of doing it, but he would give it a thoughtful answer. And I remember the first few times he had this thing that he did that I certainly didn't appreciate at the beginning. And if he didn't know you, but he knew someone else, he would address that other person. So the first few times I dealt with Coach K, it was the practice at Fort Bragg with Jimmy Dykes. It was a game with Doris Burke. It was a game with Jay Williams. It was a game with Len Elmore. All these people, I mean, he knew Jay Will since he was probably 14 years old. And he knew all these people for a long time. And I would ask what I thought was a really great question. And he would look at me and he would take the question. And then he would turn, for example, and say, "Well, Doris, some people think that our rebounding is the issue, but the fact of the matter is," and then he would answer the question to the other person. And I'm like, do I not exist? Well, I did enough of their games, and then I went in there with an analyst, and I certainly won't share their name, but who he didn't have as much respect for, I think was the bottom line. And this person did a soliloquy. Here, coach, here's what I think about your team, and here's how I view it, which is the wrong way to approach a Hall of Fame coach, right?
Sure.
You're there to ask questions, not tell them what you think.
Yeah.
And Coach K very politely listened to him and let him go through his rigmarole, and he finished, and he goes, Tom, some people think, and he came right to me, and I was like, I've made it. I finally arrived. But to putting Coach K in perspective, like, here's a guy who gets paid tens of thousands of dollars, at least, I would get. I'm just guessing here, to go speak to Fortune 500 companies and to give philosophical advice on leadership and management and real world experience. And you get that when a coach like that is invested, and the great ones are, in spending their time with you, you get that kind of feedback yourself. And I think it's wonderful. I wish what I should have done is taken notes from all of these meetings over the years and made it into a management or leadership book, because I think that would have paid off. I do have one. If you have time for one more.
Yeah, plenty.
This is my favorite. Okay, this is my favorite one. Going back to Saban. So a few years ago, I had Alabama over Labor Day weekend, and we were at their practice, and somebody screwed up their onside kick coverage. And Nick Saban went out and grabbed the dude by the face mask and used some words that are not family friendly for a podcast, and said, "You've got to be in position." Essentially, like, you are screwing up, and I am holding you accountable in this moment in front of everybody. Well, that was Thursday. Saturday, we do the Alabama game. Sunday, a flood in New York, and I've got a Yankees game on Monday. And to your point about the appreciation for this access, I later told the producer who's producing his first ever game, I said, I don't want you to forget that we just had 30 minutes, just us, in the manager's office of the New York Yankees.
Wow.
Like, don't ever take that for granted. But the story was, we walk into Aaron Boone's office, and I've got 5 football helmets behind me. He's got a wall of college football helmets, starting with USC, which was his team growing up. And I walk in, I was like, this is amazing. I said, I was just in Tuscaloosa, and I found the comparison really unique in that, like, Giancarlo Stanton is playing like crap for you right now, but you can't grab his face mask like Nick Saban can. Here, the pressure for both of you and the expectation is to win everything and to win the final game of the season. Yet you have to go about your management and your accountability in very different ways. And we had a great conversation about that. And yada, yada. I go back to Alabama like 3 weeks later. And I want to share this story with Saban and kind of bring it full circle to see what his opinion is. And as I'm starting to introduce the story, I said, hey, you don't know this, but we were here Labor Day weekend, and I left here and I went straight to Yankee Stadium. And I walk into Aaron Boone's office, and he interrupts me, and he goes, "You told him I'm a Yankees fan, right?" I was like, yeah. I told Aaron Boone that Nick Saban is a Yankees fan. Like, they're kids like us in many ways, right? Like, Nick Saban to the Yankees is what Alabama is to any young Alabama fan. Like, he has that same sort of passion and that same energy towards the Yankees. It's just, who's your Yankees or who's your Alabama, and I think, who's your Florida, who's Florida to somebody is Florida State to somebody else. I was a huge Royals fan growing up. I had a chance to go to the World Series. Kept this.
Nice.
My wife's like, why do we have an old towel? I was like, come on. That's my memory of that's
right. That's the memory of that.
from that event.
No doubt. Great stuff, and the D's nuts and all these things. I think that's what I love the most about what you're able to do is just the subtle humor in broadcasts, and just obviously you're very prepared. You do all these meetings, you understand it all, but to be able to just incorporate something into a broadcast. Obviously, some get way away, and the game's out of hand. But even when it's close, and just to be able to find a story or pull it from something, and the way you listen, like how fun is that? Just to be able to like goof off, because that's what we want to hear. That's what the normal person wants to hear and enjoy. Like, it's not all about just serious and being Mr. Broadcaster type.
No, I get annoyed. I love the serious, and I love Mr. Broadcaster when it's a game that you're like, if I'm watching Stanley Cup, and I watch hockey once a year, and that's the postseason, right? And if that gets into an overtime period, like I don't need knock jokes, right? I may not know anybody on the ice, but I'm fully invested in how this game turns out.
Mm-hmm.
It's rare to get those games, right? I mean, most of the games are, I don't know what the average is, but I would guess that most are non-competitive. All the games we do, you get lucky if you get an overtime game, or we're lucky to get Vandy knock off #1 Alabama earlier this season. So when to turn that off, I think is fairly obvious. But to your point, and you know the guys I work with, and you know some of them really well, you have to have a partner in the booth who has a similar perspective on the game and life and is willing to play along with you.
Yeah.
And is willing to have some fun. And that means sometimes letting their guard down. I mean, there's some people in this industry who want to portray a certain perspective or personality that may not even be in line with who they are. You can't do that. You can't play those games. You can't go off script with those type of people. So I'm really lucky in that I have people in every sport that I work that they may get annoyed by me sometimes. There's no doubt about that. But they want to engage in the fun part of it, because at heart, every person who's in charge of sharing a broadcast with, whether it's 10 people or 10 million people, you better be a fan first. Like, you better be interested and curious and anxious and excited. And because if you're not, then it's not going to come through the screen.
Yeah, totally true. And before we start our rapid fire, quick hit 'em questions, I see the Missouri helmet back there, and Tennessee. You got a few others. Like, does that ever come into play, or maybe early on because you're Missouri guy? Like the first time you broadcasting for Missouri, was there ever like a bias, and you're like, oh damn it, they lost, or something like that, or is it? How has that been? And I guess it's hard for me too, because now it's like, I'm a fan of the Braves growing up for all these years. But now I'm a Brady Singer fan, or I'm a, Jonathan India fan, all these guys. And it's almost like if they're playing the Braves, I'm rooting more for the player that you have the relationship with, as opposed to the team anymore. So my mind's all screwed up. How do you take all that kind of stuff?
I'm in the same boat as you are. Like, I want my alma mater to do well. I want my friends who are fans of Missouri, I want them to have a positive experience. And there are times where I allow myself to be a fan. I went and watched. I was in Columbia for a basketball game, so I went and watched the Cotton Bowl at a sports bar with a bunch of buddies. Okay, that's fun being a fan, right? For one night, just kind of letting it all hang out. And I go to a Chiefs game usually every year. Went to Super Bowl a couple of years ago. I'd certainly be a fan. But you're exactly right. I have found myself rooting, if that is a term that I would use in my professional capacity, less and less for any names on the front of the jerseys, but on the back.
Mm-hmm.
And those are coaches that I really like or have developed friendships with or relationships with. It's players who I think do the right thing. And to be quite frank, it can work the other way. I mean, there are players that I think are knuckleheads on the floor, and I go, man, I wouldn't be able to win with that dude. Not that I don't want people to win, but it's okay. I don't need to watch that guy. And that happens too when you watch, I think, with a critical eye. To answer the Missouri question specifically, I give you two examples. One time it got me in trouble, and that was, I think, one of their very first SEC basketball games. They were playing at Auburn, and they got taken to overtime by a really bad Auburn team. This was Tony Barbee was the coach before Bruce Pearl was hired. I think Auburn had lost something like 18 straight conference games. And I made the comment during the broadcast that when Missouri joined the SEC, they were brought in to compete with the likes of Kentucky and Arkansas on the basketball side of things, not to be taken to overtime by a terrible Auburn program. And I heard from the Missouri coach 2 days later. He wasn't happy with that comment. And I said, but I stand by it. Like, look at your program. Maybe I'm at fault because I know too much about the program history and the fan expectations. But when Missouri joined the SEC, there wasn't anybody who sat around and said, I bet we could play in two of the next three SEC championships in Atlanta on, December 6th and December 7th. No, But the fan base as a whole thought, well, this will be fun. Now we get to go play Kentucky. Now we get to play Arkansas for a conference game. Now we can go battle Florida, who won 2 national titles, and we can prove that, we're an elite college basketball program. And that didn't happen. And then the other one was, I think, 18. Was it that long? No, it was Kirby's first national championship. We had Georgia at Missouri, and Missouri had a second half lead. In fact, they had a fourth quarter lead. And I knew Missouri has never beaten the number 1 team in the AP poll. They have a win against number 1 BCS, Oklahoma, but never number 1 in the AP poll. And in that moment, I started to get this feeling of nostalgia because I knew what it would mean to the program. I knew what it would mean to the fan base. I knew the historical significance of it. And I started to get really kind of excited. Yeah. And I had to throttle that down and go, okay, this just because you know that and you can relate to that, I think that probably makes my call better. But you can't let those emotions overwhelm you. Like, you have to pull it back and just be matter of fact in that moment. So that's a very long-winded answer to your question, but I think that we're driven by different things. And if you're good at your job, you can recognize when those feelings come in, and then you could suppress them so it doesn't come across in the broadcast. And
you are damn good at your job. So let's see how good you are, though, at these questions that I have come up with. This is our Titan MRI rapid fire questions. See if you're up to the challenge. I'm going to add one to it because it got me thinking as you were running through all that. You mentioned Saban and Coach K. I think we've all been around dudes with potty mouths, so to speak. Like, who's the coach that maybe nobody would think of that has the worst potty mouth?
Well, Coach K was notorious for it in game, but he was also smart about it because he would do this right in front of the official. And then his wife would be in the third row and she'd be using those same words and they would just be wearing them out. The biggest but like in person, most of them. Okay. I'll give you a quick example. I took my son when he was very young. He was probably 3 years old to a college basketball shoot around because he came to the game with me. And he was in the stands, and it was South Carolina at Auburn. Frank Martin and Bruce Pearl. He heard more F words in those 2 hours of shoot around than ever before. Eventually, I said, hey, here's a stack of paper. Go to the very top of the arena, make paper airplanes, see if you can throw them down to me. We got back in the car, to drive home that night, and I was like, please, please, please do not tell your mother how many times you heard that word. But it was like every other word from both of those coaches. It's like they had a contest to see who could say F more.
Yeah, awesome. All right, loudest football environment you've ever been a part of?
Loudest football environment. The loudest stadium environment I can remember, I went as a fan, the NLCS Cardinals at Astros. They had the roof closed with the killer bees, and they kept playing the buzzing noise. And then Albert Pujols hit a home run that still hasn't landed off of Brad Lidge, and they got quiet really fast. Football, gosh, I want to lean to Tennessee. Ohio State can get loud. LSU. I think probably Tennessee, Ole Miss when Kiffin returned was probably the loudest. But I've been in TCU, Utah was a top 10 game. The stadium shook. The same thing happened Missouri, South Carolina just a couple of weeks ago when South Carolina came back. Like Williams-Brice Stadium was shaking. That's next level when you feel it.
Yeah, certainly so. All right, what partner of yours, any sport,
Kyle Peterson
thinks he's the best looking?
Yeah. You didn't even have to finish the question. Yeah, Kyle Peterson, without a doubt. He's still waiting for the modeling agents to call him.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I see it every day. What partner is the most athletic?
Kyle Peterson. I'll go with Jordan Rodgers on this one. Quick story. We ended at a Top Golf suite, like the not the big Top Golf, but just the video ones.
Yep.
And we're all knocking the ball around, and he goes, hey, why don't we play left-handed? And I went, all right, we're a few beers in, and we play left-handed, and he's putting them 10 feet from the pin.
Wow.
That's pretty athletic.
That's pretty damn good. All right, at shoot-around or batting practice, what is more likely to happen? You swing and miss at a BP fastball, or you airball a three-pointer?
Both of those things have happened in my life. I would say swing and miss at a BP fastball is more likely to happen. My trajectory is completely off. My swing plane has no chance. I can hold my own. I can hold my own if we're just putting up shots.
Okay.
I'm not running full court, but if we're putting up shots, I can hold my own.
You're draining them. Have you ever gotten a hole-in-one?
No.
Ever been close?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been close a couple of times. In fact, I won the closest to the pin in Omaha at a College World Series, this big-time tournament. I won the closest to the pin with my 6-iron. It was a really tough hole, and then I parred the hole.
That a baby.
Typical. If that doesn't tell you, that doesn't tell you about my golf game.
What is the best golf course you've ever played?
I went to Pebble this summer. I put Pebbles up there from an experience standpoint. Kiowa's up there. It's been a few years since I've been there. And Peachtree in Atlanta is like second to none. I've been lucky to get to those places. I'm open to go to more, by the way.
Yes, of course.
The invite's out there.
Get them to something sweet. All right, sneakers or dress shoes when wearing a suit?
Sneakers more often than not. I understand the criticism of it. I wish people understood too that, like, for a college football Saturday, we're standing for 6 hours at a time, both pregame, in-game, post-game. And I really don't think anybody cares that much, nor should they.
Yes, totally agree. All right, this one's weird for me, so it made me think of maybe asking you this. And a couple weeks ago, we're in Austin. I'd never been to Austin before, so that was cool. But the Undertaker comes into the TV booth, which is literally right next to our radio booth, and I'm like, holy there's the Undertaker. Like, I never get, not nervous, but I just, you want to meet somebody. Like, has there ever been somebody you've been nervous to go up to or meet of all these cool people you get to meet?
Yeah, I just don't want to bother people,
Yeah, exactly.
Like I look at them and like, they're getting harassed by enough people. I don't want to bother them. About 10 years ago here in Atlanta, we're at the park at the end of our street. We were at this park every day. Our kids were young. It was awesome. And my daughter is on the swing next to another girl her age. And all of the moms are freaking out because this daughter's dad is sitting over there on one of the picnic benches. And they're like, that's so-and-so. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's ludicrous. You got to go talk to him. I'm like, I'm not going to bother the guy. He's here with his daughter. Like, our daughters are having fun on the swing set. So I think I just said hi, like gave him the wave and let the women fawn all over him. So George Brett was my guy growing up, was my favorite player, any sport. And I ended up on an elevator with him one time. And let's just say we were both into our Miller Lights. And I was like, I don't know if this was going to be awkward or not. So it was a simple, hey, hello, big fan, enjoy your Miller Lite. And that was about it. Nothing more needed to be said.
Yeah, there you go. Good stuff. All right. So you like Miller Lite, obviously. Food wise, what is the best SEC town for food?
They're all great because every place has a spot. And whether you like Dragonfly Sushi, whether you like Republic Steakhouse in College Station, you like a Ruby's Steakhouse and the environment there, like in Nashville or Lexington, like you can find someplace anywhere. I'm still working on Austin and Norman. I'm going to get there. So without denigrating any other town, the overall winner is Oxford, Mississippi. They have 2 James Beard Award-winning chefs that have restaurants that are on the same town square. Like, just from a number standpoint, you are not going to have a better argument than that. You can get whatever you want. You can have the time of your life on a college football weekend, Oxford, Mississippi. The food wins the party.
Yeah, good. No, good answer. All right. Are you, Cole, and Jordan the only 3-man crew that you know of that all, dipped into some college football back in the day as an athlete? Look at you.
Why don't you bring up the Quincy University Hawks?
Look at you.
For a skinny tight end / slow wide receiver. I was a hybrid player back in the day. The first hybrid. Yeah, I think we're the only three with college football experience. I
What
think
number
that's
did
right.
you wear?
I wore 82.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was my wide receiver number in high school. So
Good.
it must
It's a
give it
good,
to
solid number.
just the studs.
Yeah, the Steve Largent lookalikes. That's how we get 82. We're also the longest tenured group.
Yeah.
The trio of us, Fowler and Herbie, have been together longer, but they've had a couple different sideline reporters. So that longevity is certainly not something I take for granted.
Yeah, it is awesome for sure. Have you ever missed a flight because a game went too long?
Oh yeah. But what's better is the game going long and the flight adjustments you make on the fly. We had Tennessee, Purdue in the Music City Bowl like 4 years ago, I think it was, and we were flying. Cole and I were flying that night to L.A. for the Rose Bowl that was 2 days later, and so to execute the escape while you're driving, to get on the phone or the app, whatever, change flight to the later flight, show up at the airport, run through security, get on the plane, like that feels like an accomplishment.
Yeah, heck yeah. That's awesome. All right, last one. Furthest ball you've ever seen hit calling an SEC baseball game?
Oh, man. Blake Burke hit one into the trees in Hoover a couple of years ago. Chad Spanbarger hit one in a parking lot. I think he had 3 home runs in that game. Caglione has to own it. And I mean, like, I can't remember the specifics, but it's got to be a Jack Caglione home run. Like, I wasn't there for the one he hit against Jacksonville in the midweek, right?
Yep.
But it's got to be, Chris Burke would know this. He probably has it seared into his memory, but it has to be a Cags home run, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's got the 2, and you obviously know Missouri very well. The indoor right behind, in right field, he almost hit it over that. It hit about 6/8 up to the peak of it, and it was just one of those when you're on the call, like it's not even. You can't even like say, "Oh, this guy, it's going to be close." Like you want to say, "Holy sh," because that
I
it's
know. I
gone.
wish we could.
It's just it'd be awesome to be able to say that kind of stuff.
So those are the 2 farthest that he hit that you saw with the Jacksonville one and the Missouri one?
Well, he hit one in Knoxville too over the scoreboard that the right fielder didn't move. There's been 3 or 4 over the years that are pretty darn special.
That's amazing. Who's he with?
Yeah, your boys, Kansas City. Let's go Royals. Yeah, good young team. Although I'm a big Brady Singer fan, but then he gets traded for India. So 2 Gators that were teammates. I don't know if I've ever seen that before, where 2 guys that maybe went to the same college get traded for the same spot in the big league. So we'll see what happens.
Do you think he's just going to tell India, like, hey, just rent my house?
Yeah,
I bought the house, so just take it.
Yeah. Have at it.
I think that would work.
That would work very well. Well, you worked this very well. I know you'd be busy working again this weekend. Thanks for all that. Always great catching up with you. And tell everybody who you got this weekend.
Oh, who do I got? I've got Oklahoma and LSU, which 2 legacy programs. I think at the beginning of the season probably looked a little bit different than it does now. I have 2 answers, by the way. I want to revert. I have 2 answers to your questions.
Okay.
My prized autograph possession was the experience. I had a Negro League Hall of Fame, and I got Buck O'Neil. So this one stays in a case.
Nice.
The late Buck O'Neil, he's a legend. But then the question about the dirtiest potty mouth you ever have, those Winston-Salem Warthogs are managed by one Wally Backman. You can't see the signature. It is this guy. This guy cursed more than he breathed, and it was amazing. Just the observations that he had and the way he would call people out with absolutely no reference point for how people felt. It was both humorous and scary at the same time. But those are experiences I'll never forget.
And words we can describe of you as well, Tom. Thanks so much.
You're the best. Thanks for having me.
You too. That is the great Tom Hart. Jameel will join us when we come back here on the Meelypod Hobby Podcast. Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life. And the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans. All right, we welcome you back inside Spurrier's podcast room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We are brought to you by Meldon Law, and good stuff from Tom Hart. Hopefully you all enjoyed that interview. I know you're getting everything ready for Friday. Yeah, Columbia, Missouri guy, so that's right there in the middle. It's literally 2 hours to Kansas City, a couple hours to St. Louis, so you're smack dab in the middle. It's that, like, do you have a hatred for one because you like the other? Because I mean, a lot of people like that. If you're a Yankee fan, you hate the Mets, or Jets fan, you hate the Giants.
I think in the Midwest, you kind of stick to your own, right?
Okay.
You got your porch friends, you got your slow pace of life. But I think the one thing that we can all agree on is we hate the Cubs.
Yes.
So that's the key, is that the Cubs hate is there. The gross field, they can't cut their grass on the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, they got just overgrown everything. So no, I'm excited to see just that. I think the Cardinals have a great farms. They've always had a great farm system, but it's fun seeing some of these younger players come up. Coaching, I'm still not sold on, but Cubs too. I mean, they got some young talent. Talking about Imanaga this year and some other guys they brought up, but still the Cubs, so I got to kind of root against them.
Well, and we told a story about his interaction with Rick Ankiel back in the day, a guy that I actually was almost high school teammates with. He basically grew up in the same town, and we went on trips together, all-star teams and all this other stuff. It takes you back to that card world of, gosh, Rick Ankiel was like this just stud prospect, and everybody wanted him, and all of a sudden he can't throw strikes in a playoff game and just gone for 2 years, 3 years.
His stuff was really sought after. He was one of the most sought after prospects, 90s, 2000s that I can think of. People wanted his stuff, and I know his cards went for a lot early on. And then, like you said, performance starts to lose that hype. And then once that hype is gone, another guy, like I think with the Cardinals, massive prospect came out was Michael Wacha.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Wacha comes up, pitched lights out in the playoffs, looks amazing, looks like Roger Clemens, and then all of a sudden gets injured, falls off, doesn't have that return, and his stuff just loses 50, 75% of its value. Wow. So tough with pitching. Baseball prospects is just all over the place, And Bowman Draft is coming out soon, Jack Caglione, and going to be on the front cover. So we'll have a fun time pulling him in the shop. They'll have some other good prospects.
He ended up making it to the finals of the fall league out there in Arizona, and he was back in town the other day. It was volleyball senior day. His girlfriend is
awesome.
libero on the Florida volleyball team, so I got to see him. All right, I want to see these because it's our wax segment. We've got Bowman Chrome University. So this is what? Them in college uniforms?
Yeah, so, Fanatics got the license for college the second year they made this product. So the first year, they had these cards that look a little goofy. But this time, or starting in 2022, they had the license in the 23 and now 24. And so every card, they just look a lot better. There's a card in this, and I'll put it on the screen. It's a DJ Lagway case hit. It's called a... the name's blanking on me right now, but it's the case hit, and it's got like a tidal wave behind him. Just a really good looking card.
Okay.
There's some other cards. He's like, class specific to the, going to class, blah, blah, blah. But the university products that they've come out with, I think have really done well. And the reason why I love this is that before that, the college products were never worth that much. And now they've just really grown into kind of a secondary, tertiary, first Bowman, rookie card, prospect card, whatever you want to think of it. So you have to open up some packs here, Jeff.
Okay, sounds good.
And I'll talk a little bit more about these products because this year they have not just Hobby, not just Jumbo, not just Breaker's Delight, not just Mega Box, not just Monster Box, but also Blaster Box. That's 6 different iterations of this, which shows how popular this is. And I love that half of those iterations are more of a retail, which then shows me that there's a lot of people just really interested in college football cards. You got quarterback already.
Jackson Arnold,
little X-Fractor action.
He just won the game over Alabama. So maybe all of a sudden now that's
it. It's hype. Selling. Jeff's selling it. Check his eBay out.
So again, I think for people to understand, obviously it says the first Bowman up here.
Yep.
What happens if this guy makes the NFL?
Yeah. So
do they also get another first Bowman?
No, they don't. So this
Okay.
is their first college card, right? So it's their prospect card, just like we see in Bowman baseball. So what happens? It'll be a rookie card.
Okay.
Right. So these are the prospect cards. I got Jaden Glover, but then I got a Will Campbell. LSU didn't have the best game against the Gators, but out of $3.99 purple. So these cards are really nice. You can see how they're good card stock too. So they're going to grade well.
And I think more for some of these college towns to have those guys in that college uniform probably means a lot more than all of a sudden you're going to the Carolina Panthers and you get a card like that. It's just doesn't have that much of appeal, especially if you're just a fan of that college team.
Yeah, college cards in general have always just had like a knack for just kind of being subpar. But now you have just the regional. I think Topps is doing a really good job on focusing on these releases and focusing on conferences and certain players. So I'm excited to see how this one does. The checklist is not as big. You don't have Shadur Sanders in it this year and Travis Hunter, but you do have DJ Lagway. You do have some other big names, which will be interesting to see. Who do I get? A Sorden.
And do you know how that comes about? Do those guys have to sign something to be a part of those checklists, or how does that work?
So there's always litigations and contract negotiations that are done. With NIL, it's huge now. So a lot of times when they sign these contracts, they sign for so many signatures or they sign for certain deals before they maybe want to renegotiate. So a lot of that goes on behind this. You got a cool insert there.
Yeah.
Big Kahuna, that's the card. I couldn't think of it. It's called Big Kahuna. It's a cool little insert.
Luther Burden. He'll be
there you go.
A high pick.
Yeah.
Good receiver. That's the guy that caught the fourth down pass against the Gators 2 years ago. 4th and 17.
I remember.
So, big Tom Hart fan. We'll send it to the Tom Hart from
there you go.
Missouri.
So that's our big release this week, the Bowman Chrome University. We have also Mosaic Football, which people love. Mosaic Football being the product that, is just a nice product. Got the micro mosaics, all the things going on with that. And I mean, there's a lot of releases coming out. There's a Marvel release as well. It's getting to that point where there's so much going on. The advent calendars, re-ups, update Chrome we've been buying more of, and just seeing more and more and more products being pushed out. So I feel you if you're a little overwhelmed by the amount, but just know that this is I would consider, I think, a fun product. Great price point, Meelypops.com, scmeelypops.com. You can get this hobby box for like $145, $150, getting an autograph and a lot of cards to rip. So definitely a good value if you can pick it up.
Yeah, certainly so. And again, don't forget to stop by the shop. Certainly some great deals. If you're one of those memorabilia guys, we had 25% off of memorabilia, which is a great get. I mean, I always love going in there and seeing the different jerseys or supplies, so it's cool.
Yeah, we got a bunch of cool stuff. Speaking of Caglione, picked up a couple of Caglione balls, Wyatt balls, so there'll be some cool stuff in the shop. One thing I always talk to people about is, if you're looking for extra holiday funds, because I know it gets tight during this time, the card shop is a great place to offload a lot of that. And so I know you've been in the shop, so many people have been in the shop, just seeing us how we transact with so many people. So stop on by. You can also text me 352-559-3659. I run the buying line for both shops. You can always text me and say, hey, look, I got this or that, and you can always ship it to me. We pay PayPal, those kinds of things. So get you the money. But that's another way, that we can work through stuff. If you're not local and you can't bring it by the shops, please contact us. We're always looking to buy, and that's a great time to get some funds together.
Yeah, certainly so. So obviously, and again, you gotta buy those advent calendars for the kids that they won't like for makeup.
I think they'll like this one.
Yes, they will like the card one.
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, get those things sitting around. Perfect way to get in there and get some holiday money to get all the goodies.
Maybe this year you just need to give your daughter a Topps or a Kaboom advent calendar and see what happens.
If there was something Taylor Swift,
Kelsey might be. Yeah, might be able to pull a Kelsey in the Panini one. So
that could be very, very cool. All right, cool show again, episode 26. And if you think it's cool, then tell your friends and family members about it. Certainly over the holidays, if you're traveling, we've got 25 previous ones with tons of great guests, so many fun interviews and different things to listen to, and encourage you to go back and make that happen. And we'll do it again next week. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving,
everybody. Hopefully you enjoy it. Don't eat too much. Enjoy the NFL games, which is always fun to be able to do that.
And don't tear your ACL playing football in the backyard. Take it easy after the turkey.
Certainly so. All right, that is Jameel. I am Jeff, and this was the Meelypod Hobby Podcast.
Thank you for joining us. We will see you next Thursday at noon.